All right, we're back with the next step of the guitar refretting process, which is leveling.
Yeah, we've lost count of numbers. I don't know what number it is.
It doesn't matter what number.
Okay.
I think it's like part 4 or 5.
Part next.
Part in.
Okay, last time you saw us, what did we do? We cut the ends and we filed one side. To show you one side, I've since filed the other.
Look how beautiful.
Nice clean ends. Okay. Of course, this guitar has a divot from landing on the stage somewhere right there, but big deal. Now, since it's been sitting and you've done an aggressive fret job and clamped it and put a lot of pressure on the neck, and then you filed it, you'll come down, maybe if you can let it sit another day, right, and you'll say, yeah, it still feels really good. But I would just take, right, and I would just come down, and I don't hear any metal touching anywhere. Okay, now I'll go on my angle. So this neck will stay like that forever, because if you didn't get any movement, you see a lot of new guitars where the fret ends are always sharp because they don't go through any of this work, and the frets are not cleated in. They're in there really loose, and as the wood shrinks and the fret moves, the fret end gets longer and longer. And a lot of people's answer to that is just stick binding on a guitar, to protect that. This side's really good too. Maybe right here I feel a little bit, so I'll work it just a little bit more. And like I said, you can't do this too many times coming across on a fret job, because you're going to do it on the final time sooner or later. Well, just where I felt a little bit of fret right there in that area, if I felt it everywhere, I would come back everywhere. Just always keep this handy during the fret job. Now, today's work on this neck is leveling. All right? And I don't want to do leveling and profiling because it's too much to do all in one. So we'll do the profiling in the next one. But leveling. Why do you have to level frets? Okay. Well, the top surface of a fret is exactly what you want. Okay. The way it looks on the wire. Exactly. Right? Well, now you look at this fret job done by somebody who's done a lot of fret jobs. And you're not going to be able to tell in the camera, but you can't find a hairline of space anywhere under those frets. Those frets are exactly to this radius. Right? And you even look down the neck, and you might see one or two that might be maybe the tiniest bit, or you think maybe it is. You still can't play that guitar. That would be like a cheap guitar that they don't file and profile, and it'll play okay, but then you'll be bringing it to a luthier because you on a certain bend somewhere.
So in a bad fret job, they might like skip this.
They'll skip this stuff, right? Okay. But what I'm trying to tell you is, if you haven't done a lot of fret jobs, it's hard to conceive that if you were good enough to get this in perfect, that you still need to do this. And I'm here to tell you, you do. Okay? Now, if this neck had problems and you planed it, you'd have a perfectly fresh radius. Well, it didn't have any problems, so I didn't plane it. So you got to follow me here. So you might have some soft areas in the wood. Wood shrinks in different places. Okay? So just because the bottoms look perfect doesn't mean it's perfect across the top. Okay? And if you plane it, what it looks like then, and then you put a finish on it, you get it. That can change in 2 weeks too. Okay, so you're gonna have to do this step. You're gonna have to learn how to do it. And there's again, like I said in every video, there's no one right fret job. It depends on what the neck needs. Okay, and the truss rod is involved all the way through the fret job, especially if you start. I put the camera up. If you start having to plane for problems, reshape the top, you're going to be doing that in conjunction with adjusting the rod. Right now this rod is fairly loose and this neck is straight. So for this, I don't want to get into all the other steps of profile planing and stuff, because we didn't show you all that, because we'd have to show you 10 different guitars with 10 different problems. Okay, when you get to this step, wherever that truss rod, and it shouldn't be a lot, just a little bit, brings this thing as straight as you're going to want it when you're playing. Okay, that's where you set it. Now, there's all kinds of ways to level. You can buy these really nice machined aluminum blocks.
Ooh, look how pretty.
Okay, you can stick sandpaper on that, right? I don't use this for that. It's too long. I don't like something that long. Okay, I like to work. If I want to take a little bit of the radius off, say in this area, almost do. There's a name for that but I've been doing it before they invented a name for it and a CNC machine to do it. Okay, I'll sometimes just work the centers a little a little more. So number one, you can go with a shorter one. So now, okay, that's a little better because it's shorter, but it's still, this is the wrong one, obviously. This is for 16. But anyway, my point is, it's still, to me, taking my control away over shaping the top of those frets. Now, if you like them, good for you. You work with what works best for you. I'm going to show you what I use. I use these, okay? These are diamond flat files, okay? And so I can do what I want. I can follow the radius. I can reshape the radius a little bit. I can work harder in this area or this area. Yeah, with a diamond surface.
Oh.
Show the name. Where do you get
Is that like
these?
what, for a knife?
Yeah, they sell these to sharpen knives on, as you can see. See all the knives?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I probably got these from Woodcraft, a place in Boston that I've done business with for years and years and years. So you might see the picture of a knife being sharpened on it, you know. But I like these, okay?
They're not too long.
I get the coarse and the fine, okay? And so I'm going to get started leveling this board. It's going to be noisy, okay? And so you'll have to, you know, probably even louder on the camera, because as you heard on the last video, you know, my frets are in so good that they ring that whole neck. You know, like when I was filing those ends, you could really hear that neck ringing. You know, those frets are cleated and they're solid. So we're going to work it a little bit. Yeah, you got to devise some kind of clamp that doesn't change. That doesn't change this. Okay. See, this neck is still. It's not being forced in any direction. Okay. It's just pinching it and holding it for me, and however you devise that. Okay. And I always check my files again to make sure they haven't gone bad. Just eye it down. It's good and straight. It's perfect. Now, if you've ever done this before, you can hear how smooth that's landing. These frets are pretty damn good, okay? English is very important here. You know, the what your body language is onto the fingerboard to get good with using a flat thing. If you're not that good, you might want to use something that's shaped to the fingerboard. And but I want control of what I'm doing. You can see this thread here is a bit lower than all the others because that wood probably has some give in it right here. Okay, so when you're in this area, until you see that thread is filed, you're not done, okay? And that's that. I mean, you have to see that fret is clean, is leveled off the top. Now, that's actually looking really good, but I want to get a tool, so just stay there. But when I asked this guy what kind of frets he wants, he told me just make sure they're not too tall because I'm a squeezer and I knock the guitar out of tune. And I've seen this guy play, and he's a very skilled player. I wouldn't have known that watching him play, but he was sure of that. And some people don't like a tall fret because of that, so I'm going to take a little more off. That's another reason for the level, okay, is not just to level the frets, but to get them to the size you want. And I'm going to inspect this now. I got one low area right here that I want to catch. a low area right here that I want to catch. And I'm pretty good everywhere else. Another thing you can do while you're leveling is put a little relief in the neck, or take a little more off here and a little more off here if the neck has a lot of problems and planing doesn't get it all. Okay, you can use a taller fret and use your truss rod, okay, to facilitate that. I mean, that's a big discussion, but I think
won't be covered here.
No, I think you can figure out what I'm talking about though. Okay, now I'm going to move to the fine file.
I guess it will go without saying probably that you're watching someone who's done this many times. He's going to make it look probably a lot easier than it is.
Well, it's work. I mean, you're gonna you're gonna feel that. You're holding on to that little thing with your fingers, you know.
Not only that, you have to feel what's underneath your hand. Oh, it sounds a lot different now.
It's the fine file.
It's easier on the ears.
Now, this next step I'm going to explain to you that you don't want any marks on the top of these frets. And this is a big mistake everybody makes. Not everybody, but a lot of people. I've seen shops that do a lot of fret jobs, and the way they actually do the next step of profiling, they ruin the fret job profiling the frets, because you never want to touch the top of these frets again. When you're done with this whole part of this video, the leveling, when you reshape that fret wire to look like that, so that's all you're trying to do is make it look like it used to look, okay? If you were to run that file over the top in any way, shape, or form, what happened to your level? It's just so simple to understand. You cannot do that. When you're profiling, I'm going to show you that in the next video, how you never come to more than the center of that fret line from either side.
You preserve
and then
that,
a very light polishing
the peak of it
on the top, which means, you know, even this fine file isn't fine enough. I'm going to have to go through a lot of sandpaper grades now, not at the end of the fret job, after it's profiled, but now I want to be profiling on a fret that the top is clean. So when I come up to that very top edge, when you have an oval like shape like that, only the tiniest top is where the string makes contact. If that's already been polished in this stage, you're not going to ruin your profiling by polishing it now. You are going to ruin it by polishing it later. And again, these videos sometimes are a little longer than you'd like, or I'd like, but you know, you got to work it, you know.
You're back to the rough one.
Yeah, because I'm getting a good look at this area right here, and I have a low area in the wood right here. No, that one's good. That one's fine. I have a low area in the wood right here I still want. And if you plane this neck, you'd have less of this to deal with now. But you'll be charging a lot more to refinish this neck and plane it. And plus you're taking wood off, you know. And
the whole finish.
Especially if the guy's finish is all nicely worn. And he likes it. And he's used to it. Okay, now I'm going to feather that back in here. I'm going to work this a little more because I want to take a little more off for him.
Because he's a squeezer.
Those were his words.
Let's use that word too.
Yep. So, why don't you ask me, Michelle, what I think about a Plek machine?
What do you think about a Plek machine?
I think it's a scam. I think
it's a Plek machine. I don't even know what it is.
I know. I think it's a worthless, useless scam to take your money from you, from someone that can't figure out how to do this and uses a machine. And I'll tell you why. You know, how perfect can a leveling possibly be? Well, what are you leveling? Okay, so you took your $4,000 historic Les Paul, all right? And don't be insulted if you have one, because I have one too. And the factory frets aren't very good, okay? You can hear it when you play the guitar. They don't sound like this. They're not cleated into the wood. They're in there very light with super glue on two ends. That's not a good fret job. Why would you bother going after perfection of plecking an exact level on loose frets that don't sound good?
What is plecking?
It's a machine that levels and profiles all by itself, puts the proper tension on the, you know, the whole. It's a big bill of goods is what it is. Okay.
So you think it's a scam?
Yeah, I do, because if you do a really good fret job and you file it by hand, I don't know what are you using? Gauge 6 strings? I mean, a good sounding string would be a 10 or an 11, and it moves a certain amount. I mean, it has. Your action can't be like that low anyway. For there to be a difference that these files and my talent with swinging these files won't get beyond a Plek machine for a level is just silly to me. You know, I just don't understand that. And then those frets are in loose. The weather changes tomorrow. You just paid whatever $300 to have your guitar plecked, and you wouldn't have been able to get away with that. You know, back in the 70s, that machine, people would see right through it. You know, but now those things is people get online and all say how they love it and you know.
Yeah, but you've done thousands, as you said, thousands.
Right.
Of
So the weather changes tomorrow after you just paid all that money for plecking, and the wood shrinks and it moves those loose frets up and down. And what have you plecked? So I know, because I know I'm going to get that question. I know I'm going to get that question from somebody watching YouTube. What do you think of the Plek machine? And so I'm telling you what I think of it. If you disagree with me, fine. It's a free country. That's what the world's all about. So, all right. Remember when I told you, when you profile these frets, you do not want any of these marks there that are there now. Okay? Those have to go. All right? That's all there is to it. So, I'll just walk around behind you either way.
I'm giving him a little tour of the guitar while you're doing that stuff. You're getting your sandpaper out?
Yep. What in the world did I do with that sheet of 400 I had?
Is that it over there?
Where? Nope, it's 800.
So, how many different sandpapers do you have to use on this?
Various grades. Here it is. Put it back away. On this one here, I'm going to start with a 400, okay? Because I know that fine file where it leaves off is right around there, okay? I'm doing this not as scientifically as I would if I wasn't trying to not waste time on a video, okay?
Be quick.
Yeah. Again, you know, I have this radius of these in that drawer. I'm not even going to bother going and getting it because I don't want that part. I want the flat part, okay?
We're using the back of it?
Using the back of it.
All right.
If you don't, you know, have a lot of experience with this, you're going to want to stick the sandpaper down, but
yeah, but probably tape it up there to keep it tight.
yeah, but what I'm doing is fighting time here on the video, so
So you're using your diamond file as a sanding block?
Yep. I always revert back to these, you know.
So you keep those just for guitar frets? You don't use those for knives?
I do not. I have some really nice blocks I use on the knife. This piece of 400 is very old.
It's shredding up.
Yeah. Okay, now I'm going to move to, for the sake of time, a piece of 600.
I'm brushing the dust off for you.
You guys have probably figured out I'm going to go back over this neck after the video, okay? And put, you know, in
between when you
before the profiling, yes.
Before the profiling.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I'm going back over it. So I just want to give you the, you know,
the basic procedure.
The rough basic procedure for doing this, you know. Okay, so now I'm running some 600 on it. And I'm not leveling here, okay? I'm not doing anything other than polishing those marks out of the surface. Because like I told you, you don't want to deal with that after the crowning. That's not when you want to deal with it. That's the biggest mistake, because you should never be touching the top of this fret again with anything but polishing, and not even 600.
So when you get done with this leveling process, then that top edge where the string is going to touch is done.
The very, very top is going to be just so small. I want to tell you a funny story. You know, years ago I started working at a very large music store, and the guy that was the head of the repair department was a very, very, very smart man. But I disagreed with the techniques he was working. But this guy was somebody, you know, that you really respected. I mean, he could build hot rods and okay, he was just the coolest guy you could ever meet, right? And when I first started working there, he says to me, I'm going to show you. Now, you see any of this black stuff here? That's going to come off when I'm done cleaning this. I don't need to tape this thing all up. This neck has a flat finish on it. Steel wool. It's going to clean this neck right back up to that original finish. I'm not going to waste my time with all that tape and everything. Basically treating this as if it was a rosewood neck that I didn't plane, okay? It's the same difference. Now, that's pretty polished. Now, this is my favorite sandpaper in the world, in case you don't know. I use this for a lot of stuff around here. It's a dry 800, and this stuff is just amazing how good it works. This is really good sandpaper. But, so, I saw this guy build a guitar, like, in a day once. Literally, while I was working on repairs, he was over there on the other bench, building a whole guitar shaped like a hatchet for a big Boston band that was going to use this guitar live that night on the stage at a big gig. I'm not going to mention any names, right? But
a hatchet.
Of whose guitar that was. But he literally built and painted and everything, and had the guitar strung up and out of there.
Painted.
Yeah, in like in a 10-hour day, you know. But he was filing the frets on that guitar, and he cut the fret slots and everything by hand. You know, mapped it out. That, you know, he didn't have a template. Actually, you know,
CNC
used
stuff
measurements,
there.
yeah. But the slots were all
must have been pretty
crooked
damn
because
good,
he was just a worker. You know what I mean? I've done a lot of fret slots by hand, but it would take me literally all day to line up and cut. I'd clamp all this stuff, you know, if I didn't have a machine to run it through, right? But not this guy. It took him 20 minutes, right? So you could learn a lot of things from him, even if it wasn't anything
he was very proficient.
ever going to do, right? And so he gets the frets all flat like this, and he keeps going. And these were like all what we had back then that everybody liked before Dunlop was those low, wide jumbos. They were like, you know, on the late 60s Les Pauls and early 70s guitars, and they were wide, like 120 or something thousandths wide and really flat. And he would just take them down to nothing like that, right? And then he would take a corner file like this, and he'd show him. He goes, I'm going to show you what I do here when I file. And he would just blunt the corners off, right? And then polish them with sandpaper and go, that's it. And I'd think, well, how can anybody play that? You know, it's such a wide surface area for the fret. A fret is like a crown. It's It's literally a crown. So the string only needs to touch at the very top edge so that it rings clearly. And I'm looking at it, and I said, when you measured the nut, Eddie, did you measure it like you measured every other fret? He goes, yeah, from the standard scale. And I said, well, are you going to move that forward now, like 60 thousandths? And he goes, why? Now, I don't know if you've ever seen Spinal Tap, right? But the scene, these go to 11. When the look on the guy's face when he says that to him, when Meathead says that to him, and he's like, this is the look he had when I said that to him. Because I don't know if you're following me or not, but this is a very, very accurate measurement. And it's measured from the center of the fret. That's how you play in tune, okay? And it's very complicated. It's a complicated scale, okay? It's tempered for the little bit of relief and everything, right? And if you're going to have one fret in the wrong place, the last fret in the world you want in the wrong place is the nut. Because it relates to every open string to a fretted string, on every chord, on anything you do, right? And if you take a 110 thousandths wide fret, right, half of that is 55 thousandths. Those frets are all ringing off the back side. The notes are ringing off the back side of that fret.
Well, didn't you say that a lot of guitars have the things in the wrong spaces anyway?
Well, yeah, but that's assuming they're at least in the right place, all right? So now, okay, so the whole guitar is still in tune off the back edge, but not this anymore, and not the bridge. The bridge is going to have to be moved back 55 thousandths in adjustment, and the nut has to come this way, 55. But it's a funny story why that doesn't work. You can't just polish this up. You have to learn the crown, because that note needs to ring off the center of that. That's flat now. And it's not supposed to be flat.
So you don't make it pointy, you make it rounded.
Not pointy. There was a guy named Patillo that designed these pointy frets, and if you're a squeezer at all, you're done. When you played one of his guitars, everything you played was out of tune because they were pyramid-shaped frets, you know. And I tried it when I was young and filed some frets up like that, and it just didn't work. You know, you don't want to reinvent the wheel. When you crown a fret, I know this is next part.
Well, isn't that part of the feel of the thing? If you have the rounded thing, then you can kind of be on one side or the other of it.
No, you can come down on the center. No. But that fret just needs to look like that fret looked before you did anything with it. And so when I get into crowning, I'm going to explain how a lot of those tools they sell for this are no good. Because what do? They're like a Gorian file that have file marker on the top. Well, you leveled the fret. If you run that thing across the top and it's
not level
changes,
anymore.
You've ruined your level. Okay, so
leveling is very important.
This step eliminates ever touching the top again. Okay, I mean, it doesn't eliminate it, but this is what you want to do before then. Okay, so this 800 dry, that fret job's looking really good now. Okay, as far as getting ready for profiling.
The top looks very satiny.
Yeah.
Trying to catch that with the light. I don't know if I can do it and get a couple angles.
And another thing I told you in every video is that I'm explaining stainless and nickel silver at the same. There's no difference there. Okay. At this video, when you're filing your frets and when you're leveling and profiling, it doesn't matter whether you have stainless. It doesn't hurt my files any more or less. The other steps were different in some ways, but this one
hurts the cutters more, but not the files.
This one is not different. Now, another thing I would do here is I would go over this with 1000. This really doesn't need it. That 800 is pretty amazing. Okay, so that's where I'm going to leave that, and then we'll come back and show you how to profile these, and then clean this neck up nice, and then we're going to go all the way through it, and then I'm going to make a nut for it, bone nut. We're going to show you that, and then we're going to show you.
Okay, so we're going to end this video now, and then you're going to complete doing this with.
Yeah, I'm going to go over this area again with some sandpaper and with the fine file, just trying to get it all in.
And then when we come back, you're going to do what?
Profiling.
Profiling.
Then we're going to profile these frets up.
Okay, and you're going to show every step until it's done.
Right. But like the profile, you're not going to sit here and watch me profile 22 frets. This is 20, you know.
Yeah, that would take.
I'll do 4 or 5 for you, and then
yeah, that takes a long time. I know. I've watched you do it before.
Okay, peace out.